Perfect. And we're going to go ahead and jump right in today. So let me share my screen and we'll get the party started. All right, perfect. Can everybody see my screen okay? Great. So the purpose of today's webinar is to talk about how you can leverage learning management systems to both improve the onboarding of new employees as well as the upskilling and kind of skills maintenance of existing employees. And today we're going to kind of talk through what an LMS system is, look at two different platforms from a features and price perspective, and hopefully give everybody on the call today some direction around how an learning management system or LMS system may fit into their business. So just a quick overview, some background on Paragus for me who's not familiar. We are an employee-owned managed service provider located in Hadley, Massachusetts, with a second office in Worcester, Massachusetts. We serve about 150 small businesses through our 65 employees who are all working hard to, as we like to say, make IT fun. And our focus is really to try to make IT as approachable, as seamless, as efficient, as unintimidating as possible, so that for scale and improve their businesses, they can look at technology as a tool and a vehicle to do so. The way we're structured is our company is broken into 4 distinct departments. We have one department focused on providing on-demand support. We have our security and compliance experts, our strategic planning team, our business automation specialists, and then our foundation, which is our projects department. However, we are here today to talk about a growing trend, or at least a consistent trend in business that we've seen for the past 2 or 3 years, which is an increased amount of turnover in companies. In 2022, just that 1 year, 50.6 million US employees quit their jobs. That's an average of 4.2 million people each month, which means that about 2.5% of the entire US workforce, which is about 161 million as of 2021, turned over monthly. So 2% of the entire workforce was turning over every single month. I'm sure there's people on this call who have experienced this at some level, some maybe more than others. Certain industries were certainly hit harder than others. But this is an important statistic, and it adds a lot of relevancy to why this conversation that we're going to have today is so important. On a not unrelated note, people who were born in the baby boomer generation are now either in retirement or fast approaching their golden years. In fact, roughly 10,000 baby boomers are turning 65 every day. And all baby boomers will have passed the age of retirement by 2030. So by the end of this decade, the entire baby boomer generation will be 65 years or older and mostly retired. Considering that baby boomers comprise 28% of the US population, this is not an insignificant number and further adds to context for why this conversation today is so important. While many businesses are struggling to find talent to fill these openings, when they are able to do so, they still have a huge challenge in front of them. New employees have so much to learn, yet you are so busy with everything else, as are many of your other employees who may also be new, that it's hard to dedicate the time to give someone a proper onboarding. You know, if you're replacing 1 or 2 seats and you've got everybody else with a lot of tenure, it's much easier to onboard somebody new. But if 3 to 10% of your staff is relatively new and you're trying to onboard while also cover and fill open seats at the same time, then it becomes a much greater challenge. And this is where tools and technology can hopefully offer you some assistance. But it isn't just new employees who need training. As I'm sure many of you on this call know, providing ongoing training to your existing employees has many benefits. First, it can improve productivity. If your team knows how to do their jobs as efficiently as possible and how to leverage the technology that's available and how to do things in the fewest and best ways, they can be more productive. Next, they can be more engaged. Employees who understand their role well and don't feel like they're struggling through it are going to have a higher level of engagement and higher level of job satisfaction. It can lead to a better company culture. If everybody feels trusted and respected, if everybody feels like they have the tools and resources needed to be successful, if everybody feels like their company is investing in them, that's going to lead to a company culture where it's the kind of place people want to be, the kind of place people want to work. And then those three things are all going to lead to better retention rates, which obviously is, given this topic, is incredibly important. If you're trying to reduce that turnover, you want to retain the talent you have. And over and over and over again, one of the top reasons employees choose to either stay with their existing company or take a new opportunity has to do with how much the company is willing to invest in their professional development, learning, and growth. And then it can add a boost to your bottom line. If you are maintaining good retention, improving productivity, have highly engaged employees who have operating in a great culture, all of that is going to lead to better performance and better results. Not to mention those skills that you're teaching them could allow them to expand their knowledge set, take on new roles, be eligible for internal promotions. All of that is going to help your company grow, thrive, and succeed. And if those reasons weren't good enough, many businesses also need to train their employees in order to stay compliant. Maybe you're trying to stay compliant with FINRA or HIPAA or the new CMMC compliance for the Department of Defense. Regardless of what the organization is that you have to maintain compliance with, there's almost always going to be some training component, some amount of training new employees or providing ongoing training. And some of that training might be HR related, things like sexual harassment training or workforce diversity training. Some of it might be more regulatory around how to handle private information or private health information. But regardless of what the requirement is, you as a business need to be able to provide that training efficiently, manage and track it so you know who's taken it, and be able to report on it to whoever your compliance body is. So, despite the importance of all of that, of all the impact of doing training well, of all the necessity of having training, many businesses are still trying to use what is somewhat of a legacy approach to the way that they approach employee development and training. And if your training has not kept up with the modern learner and the modern way that people want to, learn and retain information, as a result, in many circumstances, those antiquated training systems are going to result in a much lower knowledge retention. What that does is it creates a disconnect in what their employees actually know. In a perfect world, it would be great if we could just get somebody in a room, sit across the table from them and say, okay, so here's what you need to know to do your job. You tell it to them one time, and that employee retains everything you've told them and nothing slips through the cracks and they can get right to business. But in reality, that's not the way learning works. It looks a little bit more like this. This is a typical learning curve, and obviously it's slightly humorized, but you get the idea that it is kind of this ups and downs of you think you get something, then you have a step back, then you get it. And part of that is just the way that our brains work. The different synapses that we're creating pathways for can sometimes lead us to believe we think we understand something, but then the more we understand it, the more we realize that we don't understand it. And it is a process. And if our learning approach is kind of a one size fits all, one and done, what we're going to find is that we often have a pretty big lag between what we need our employees to know and even what we think they know to what they actually know and are able to execute on. And so all of that is important context that we need to have when we think about what our learning program should look like. And then furthermore, one thing that we hear from employers all the time is that it's really hard to keep track of who knows what. If you need someone in your company who is an expert in a particular topic, or has completed a certain course, or is an Excel guru, it's really hard to have like a skills index within your company of who are the right people for a task. If some work comes in and or somebody with a certain knowledge base, it's not always easy to know who in the organization has that knowledge and that skill and that experience. So you can play matchmaker and align the tasks with the people, figure out who's eligible for a new promotion, figure out who can take on a new responsibility. That kind of knowledge of who knows what in the organization is sometimes hard to quantify and measure. And that's where an LMS comes into play. So an LMS, or learning management system, is really designed to tackle all of the things that we just talked about. It's designed to help you provide structure to what otherwise be a somewhat chaotic, legacy, unmanageable process. And so what is an LMS, or learning management system? Basically, it is a catalog of courses. And as we're going to talk about a little bit later, those courses could be recorded trainings that are on video. They could be PowerPoint presentations. They could be a long PDF with multiple pages, but they also could be a webinar, a live training, a book you need somebody to read, even a training manual that needs to be understood. It's going to be a collection of all the different components to the training that your employees need to have. Then it's going to create documentation for you. Need which trainings based on their role or their experience or their tenure or how long it's been since they've taken that training in the past. Then it's going to provide tracking for you, being able to tell at an instant kind of one screen who has taken what training, who's behind on their training, who was supposed to take a training but didn't take it, who took the training but failed the test at the end of the training, kind of where is everybody in their journey. Often LMS systems are also going to elevate your learning to an e-learning experience, one where you're learning online, potentially from a mobile device, kind of meet learners where they are and be a little bit more robust in the way that we approach bringing learning to people. It's also going to provide management tools. So your ability to say, all right, there's a new training coming out. I want to assign that training to anybody in the company who's in this department, or anybody in the company who's been with us for less than 2 years, or anybody in the company who has this title. It allows you to assign and manage courses based on the employees and their roles and their tenure and many other factors. At its core, it's an education system. So it's a place that employees can go not only be trained, but to go back and look up information. So if they know there was a training on a particular topic and they want to go back and revisit that, they can go access the educational portal and re-look at that training, a synopsis of it, the exam, whatever else is contained in terms of the documentation for that. And it's going to be software. It's going to be something that's easy to manage and track and use as a business owner to keep this as simple as possible for you. So at a very, very high level, that is what an LMS is conceptually speaking. However, it's important to understand that LMS itself is not a product, it's a term. It's a term for a platform that provides these kinds of services and resources. But as you can imagine, like any other platform, there's a lot of different products on the market. And you can go from highly, highly complex programs that are made traditionally for like higher educational institutions. So the kind of LMS systems that would be used by a college or university to train their students or their graduate students, all the way down to a very, very simplistic system that's designed for just the smallest businesses with the kind of simplest use case requirements, and everything in between. And what can sometimes be overwhelming for business owners is trying to find that product that's going to fit your business. Typically, if you just do some Google searching or some research, you're going to find mostly the enterprise grade LMS solutions, the ones who can afford to spend a lot of money on sales and marketing and websites and search engine optimization and Google paid click ads. Those are the businesses that are probably not right for most of the people on this call. You're looking for something that's more designed for that small business market. And those are the ones that sometimes are a little bit harder to find on your own. And so that's really where we've tried to do our best at curating some possible solutions that we think can fit this market. We've decided to partner with two different products. One who has an entry-level product designed for those with very simple requirements, and then a premium product for those who need the more advanced features without going all the way to an enterprise product where you're paying fortune and needing full-time staff just to maintain it and administer it. So what are those two products? I'm glad you asked. For those looking for kind of an LMS light, then we would use what we call the Paragus Wayfinder, something that is included in every Paragus subscription. And in just a moment, we're going to show you a little bit more about that tool and how it works. And then by contrast, for those who are looking for something a little bit more sophisticated, there's a tool called LMS 365. And in a few minutes, we're going to tell you about some of the benefits and features, as well as show you a demo of that product and how it compares to Wayfinder, which we've kind of put more in the LMS Lite category. So let's start with just a really high level of what Wayfinder is. As I mentioned earlier, it is included in your partnership with Paragus. It's a very useful tool that's useful for both us and our customers in delivering basic LMS requirements. And so we've decided to package it within our service programs. So it's going to be great for things like a self-directed video that you need an employee to watch or a PDF. It's not going to be the tool you're going to use for live trainings, for active webinars, where you're going to have 4 different sessions on different days and you want people to sign up and manage registrations and things like that. It's not for that. It really is, I have a repository of trainings that I want to make available to my staff, and I want to be able to track who has watched them and who hasn't watched them. It does give you the ability to have a course and a test. So a course is going to be the content, and then a test or an exam or a quiz is going to be used to measure was there retention of knowledge that occurred in the execution of this learning opportunity. It will let you leverage either content that you create, so you can create your own videos, your own PDFs, your own PowerPoints, and upload those, or you can buy paid content and upload that. But when you're buying the paid content, you're somewhat limited. You can't just use any paid content. You have to use paid content that already has a partnership with this program. And there's a couple of great partners there and some great content, but it isn't going to be as flexible or limitless as, for example, the next product that we'll look at. And it does give you the ability to see who has completed which courses and whether or not they passed the training at the end. You can't assign training to people, so it doesn't give you the ability to say, for these 25 people, I'm going to require them to take this training. But what you can do is you can send those 25 people an email saying, I would like you to take this training, here's a link to it, and then you can track and see whether or not they do it. So it does give you some tracking and reporting capabilities, but not quite as robust as a system where I can have different classes of employees with different assigned trainings, and I can track compliance and set up reminders and have it be a little bit more formalized and automated and a little bit less manual on my part. So that's kind of the Wayfinder LMS Lite product. And again, we'll take a look at it in just a second. By contrast, just to give you a sense of what LMS 365 is, it is Microsoft's recommended cloud-based learning management system. And it is really designed for businesses of all sizes, but it tends to work in, like, I would say, a 25 employee business up, or a company who has a really, really strong demand and need for rich content tracking and management. One of the things that we absolutely love about it is the only learning platform that was natively built into Microsoft 365. So it doesn't really have its own interface. It was designed to live within 365. And we say within 365, there's a Teams component, there's a SharePoint component, there's an email component, there's a portal component. It really is designed to just be integrated into all of the 365 tools you're already using and look like it's almost native to those tools. It'll feel almost like this is part of the Microsoft 365 platform. That's how well engineered and engaged it is with that system. And it is going to give you the capacity to do the different learning modalities. So you can have online, you can have classroom, you can have webinar, you can have blended, you can have peer-to-peer, you can have micro-learning. It's much more robust in the diversity of types of training modalities that you can use it to deploy. And it's also going to let you easily create and structure courses using any content from any repository. Much more flexible in terms of where you're getting your learning content from that you're going to upload into the system. And of course, you can do things like assigning trainings to different employee groups and track and manage that, set up reminders. And again, we'll look through that in just a little bit more. The other thing I'll just say about it is it's kind of accessible from any device. So you're going to have a SharePoint interface, a Teams interface, and a mobile device interface, which just makes it really easy for your employees to do things like maybe download a training and access it offline, maybe while they're on an airplane or sitting on a train. It's going to allow them just to have it be more integrated into their normal operating kind of daily business life, as opposed to being a separate place they have to go to get this training that's kind of only available when they have an internet connection. So a little bit more robust and powerful there. All right, I'm going to pause there and switch over and kind of do a demo. We've got a very special guest with us today. His name is Tim Montague, and he is our VP of Talent and Acquisition. And in just a few minutes, I'm going to hand it over to him to show you what the LMS 365 product looks like. But before we do that, I'm going to give you just a quick introduction to the Wayfinder LMS Lite tool that we've been referencing. So to access it as a client, you're simply going to open up the Wayfinder app. And if you've been given access and it's set up, you're going to have this little graduation cap over here on the left, and you'll click on the university and you go to courses. Here, you're going to see whatever courses have been made available to you. So that'll be somewhat based on your subscription, but also based on what courses your company has published. The content is really a separate conversation, and we'll talk about that in a second. Before we get into the content is more of just the platform itself. So the platform is, you can have courses, you can recommend courses. So those are going to be the ones that come up on the home tile screen. The other courses are going to be sorted by either popular courses here, or by categories. And you do have control over which categories they show into, which ones you want to be listed as popular, and how you want to tag things. For example, here we've tagged them based on language. So if I only want to see the courses available to me that I can watch in Spanish, I can click on that and it's going to show me all the courses that have that Spanish tag attached to them. So these are some of the ways that you can sort and organize courses. To add a course, you're going to just click the add button, decide what category you want to put it in, give it a name, decide what tags you want to apply to that course. And then you're going to decide, is this a lesson? Is it an external URL I'm going to point to? Or is it what's called a clip training course, which we can talk more about later? Then you give it a description, and you're going to fill out a couple of things. What is an exam passing score? Do you want this course to expire? Meaning, do you want them to have to take it again, if, for example, in 12 months from now? That might work well for something like a sexual harassment training, where maybe you want that to be repeated every year. You could have the course expire. You can decide if it's going to be required for everyone, and you can decide whether it's going to show up on that initial course pages like I was showing you a second ago. And then you can create a logo or an image to represent that course as the little tile for it. Once you do all of that, you're then going to build out your lesson plans. Your lesson plans are going to be the material and the quizzes and the kind of the way that you're going to track the retention of the information as well as the content itself. So this is where you're going to kind of build out the course and put in everything that you need in order to not only have the material, but to have the quiz that goes along with that. In a complex case, you may take a topic like diversity and inclusion, have 5 different lessons within that, and each lesson could have its own exam. And so it could almost be built into like modules. It also could just be that your course just has one lesson. It's a 30-minute video followed by a 5-question test. So you can kind of make it as simple or as complicated as you want. You're going to build all that out. Once you build it out, it's going to start showing up in your library based on whatever category you assigned it to. And then your employees are going to be able to click on that training, enroll in it, which will start the program. They can watch the training. They'll go through the modules as you design them. They'll take the test as you designed it. And if they hit a passing score, it'll mark off as completed. That's really it at a kind of a fundamental level. Obviously, I'm skipping through a lot to simplify it, but at its core, that's really how this works. And then somebody in your company will have the ability to go into the compliance section and go to training and be able to see who has enrolled in which trainings and who has completed which trainings. I can sort by the enrollees, I can sort by the completions, and I can see, for example, the cybersecurity training, 1 person enrolled it, they completed it. Help desk habits, 2 people enrolled in it, nobody completed it. And I can just get a sense of kind of how we're doing. If I want to look into that deeper, I can click on it. I can see anybody who's been enrolled, when the last time they took it was, and whether they completed it. I could download that to Excel if I wanted to. And sometimes, though, it's actually easier for me to look at this by student. So I can switch the view and say, okay, by employee, this person, Alexander Hanks, has 3 courses that they're required to take. They have started 0, completed 0. And so their last activity was on 12/31/2001. In other words, they've never touched it. So this might be somebody I want to follow up with from an HR perspective and ask them to get started on their program. That's kind of the LMS 360, I'm sorry, the Wayfinder LMS Lite product in a nutshell. The one other thing that I will just mention is I did say that in this program, you do have access to some paid content. The 2 paid contents that are available are a product called Bigger Brains, which is a LMS content producing company, so a learning management content company. And what they do is they make trainings in all kinds of categories. So if you are a Paragus partner, we've given you access to about 30 of their trainings for free. The ones we give you initially are all Microsoft trainings. So they're things like how to use Teams and Excel and PowerPoint. But as you can see here, if you were to unlock the rest of their training, it's much broader than Microsoft training. You're going to get into things like how to share a workspace with other people or design beautiful documents, some selling tools, some finance tools, some time management training, how to lead engaging Zoom meetings, data literacy. So kind of a much wider, broader set of very common in-demand professional development skills. And this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more things in here. We can drill into collaboration. We could look at compliance training. We could look at specifically some customer service training, business applications that aren't Microsoft, so Adobe, G Suite, Chromebooks, QuickBooks, things like that. And really, all of these are designed not only to train your employees, but as a professional development opportunity, a way for you to invest in your staff. And so, if you're a small business that wants to invest in your employees and upskill them, but maybe you don't have the time to develop a lot of your own content or spend forever going out and curating content, you could sign up for a program like this, instantly get access to 180 trainings, and give your team access to them to take on their own, or maybe it's your recommendation. So again, this is like a quick, easy, simple LMS, and then layered onto that, a quick, easy, simple set of content that you could subscribe to for a relatively low cost. I think the cost is $2 to $3 per user per month. It's very manageable. You can cancel anytime, and this can be a great way just to invest in your team. The other application is a clip app, which is basically making it very easy for you to create your own videos. So if you wanted to produce your own videos and do your own training, but didn't maybe have all the right equipment and software to do that, there is a second paid application you can subscribe to, which allows you to very quickly make videos on your own and upload them to the Wayfinder LMS. Those are the two ways you can get content into LMS that's paid. Either you're going to use the software, or you're going to use the Bigger Brains courses, or you're going to do them entirely on your own and add them on your own. So with that, I'm going to pause and hand it over to Monty, who's going to walk us through LMS 365. And then just after that, we'll open up for questions and let you guys ask us anything on your mind. So Monty, I am going to stop sharing my screen and give you permission to share yours. So whenever you are ready, jump right in.
All right. Well, thank you. So, all right. So yes, today we're going to talk about LMS, or I'm going to demonstrate for you LMS 365, which is kind of the next level in terms of capabilities and content and flexibility over Wayfinder's university program. And I hope you can, let me make this larger. I hope you can see the screen all right here. I'm on a very big Mac desktop. So, but as Delcy had mentioned, the LMS 365 platform does natively reside in the Microsoft ecosystem, specifically SharePoint. And as you can see here, our instance of LMS 365, or what we're referring to as Paragus University, is very much natively embedded into the SharePoint environment. The advantage to this is that it does integrate with the other Microsoft products, such as Microsoft Teams. And there is, kind of the ability to integrate this into a Teams environment or a Microsoft Teams environment if you're using that, so that people don't have to necessarily jump around between multiple different applications. With Microsoft Teams, you can have access to all of the Microsoft content, including your learning management system, right through that central kind of portal of Teams. Much like the Wayfinder University program that Delcy just demonstrated. The content here, very much the same in regards to the fact of the ability to create content and categorize it. You can do it, of course, by keywords as well, and make it very easily searchable through those index keywords. And what we've done here to kind of put a little context around how we're using it in our business for our employees is we've actually created and categorized training based on departments. So for example, our client support department, these training materials here that we've created are all related to those employees in that department to help them do their job better. We also use this extensively for new employees that we're onboarding as well, because this way we don't have to keep reteaching through live training sessions people the same things that they either need to know to be effective in their position or beneficial to know from a skill standpoint related to the role and responsibilities. We can create a training around that once and then drive our employees to that. And one of those, of course, we have is very specifically around new hires, right? New hire onboarding is very much the bane of many organizations' existence. And so for us, all of the training that we want every new hire to go through, we have created a training program around here in our LMS 365 platform. And the new employees are pointed to this, but can also find it very easily on their own. And they can go through all of these trainings, whether it's around our quarterly check-in process, using the organizational tools that we have, the overall Paragus pitch, your first days at Paragus, and what to expect, and what's it like, and what's required, and what we look for out of a new partner in their first days here. So this is a really great way to take all of the things you want to standardize the kind of exposure, awareness, and capabilities around from a training standpoint, and put it in one place that makes it very easy for them. So this is just the front end interface, but we'll step back into the back end interface of how is all of this managed and coordinated and created. So much like the Wayfinder solution, you have all of the same capabilities in the LMS 365. That includes creating courses, creating quizzes, generating certificates of completion, setting those retraining requirements, such as for harassment training on a yearly basis, for example. But creating training is really quite simple and straightforward, much like in the Wayfinder University solution. Here, when we want to create a new training, we would select the type of training we wanted to create. E-learning, of course, is on-demand training that sits there and waits for somebody to come and find it and take it. Instructor-led training is just that. It is actually live instructor-led training that can also be recorded, and you can set up multiple sessions. And a session is simply a period in which the training is going to occur. So say, for example, you wanted to do new hire onboarding training. You could make it instructor-led, and you could schedule it for every Monday at, say, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then employees could go through and pick the day or the session that they wanted to enroll in and enroll in that. You can also create training plans as well. And a training plan is a combination of many different elements that go into a course that we're creating. So some of it may be video, some of it may be some on-demand work, quizzes, tests, essays. All of this can be created around what's called a training plan, which includes, of course, multiple courses. So it's not just a single course, but rather it's a combination of courses and other resources to create a very comprehensive training plan. So here, of course, you would simply name it, give it a description. Again, you would categorize it. If there wasn't a category that you saw available, you wanted to create a new one, you could simply start typing in a new category for that training. Again, just like with Wayfinder, you can associate tags that make this content very easily searchable by users. And then, of course, you can specify the duration of this training as well. And then, of course, apply an image to it so that it presents to them. Next, of course, we come over to the content part of this, and we can add a number of different learning items into this course. One of them, of course, is a content package. We can add quizzes. We can create learning modules. We can link to external applications or sources, as well as providing learning assessments as a part of this training course as well. In a learning module, we can create and format our own content. We can link to other content through embedded codes, or we can insert multimedia. We can create confirmation lists so that we get an acknowledgement from the employee that they understand what they're about to engage in, or that they've completed it satisfactorily. We can upload files. We can select and create quizzes. We can upload package contents. We can link out to external sources such as websites, for example, and even documents within our own document ecosystem. So there's a lot of great things that we can do here in terms of building and customizing these different courses, and we can have multiple learning items. So we could have a part 1, a part 2, part 3, part 4, for example, and make them very comprehensive and step by step. You know, if it's a very long, in-depth, ongoing training course, maybe we break it up into 5 smaller chunks that they can leave and come back to and just kind of take step by step. Of course, some of the setting capabilities we have is we can create what are called enrollment workflows. What this means is we also have the ability to restrict who sees or has access to this training. This is also a capability in Wayfinder as well, You can associate certain trainings to different groups of employees through Active Directory so that only certain employees in certain groups or departments would have access and visibility to certain trainings. We can do the same thing here. We can choose whether we want to show this in our course catalog or not. We can do what's called training audience targeting in LMS 365 using the Microsoft Active Directory ecosystem. We can actually target this training to specific groups of people based on how they're set up in Active Directory. We can also assign things like due dates. Is this a certificate generated course? And does this apply to adding to certain skill developments as well? In addition to that, we can also manually enroll learners. So if we want somebody to take a course, maybe we just created a new training course for our client support department, we can actually go through and manually enroll learners to this course, but they can also self-enroll. And when they do, we'll actually see them here, as well as the ability to assign administrators. So these would be like, for example, the instructors who are giving that course can be assigned so that they have administrative capabilities over that as well. So these are some of the courses, of course, that we've created here. And we can see how many people have enrolled, how many people have completed, and who's overdue, much like, excuse me, much like in the Wayfinder University program as well. We can also generate reports from all of this as well. So if we want to look at, course completion settings, we can go through and see what the different pieces of this are in order for this course to be completed. We can add a different set of requirements in order for the course to be counted as completed as well. And we can manage and update all of the course settings, including the learners themselves. So here we can see who are the employees that have actually enrolled in this course. So it's a really phenomenal and robust opportunity to be able to create training for your team, your staff and employees, and then to monitor and measure their progress against it. Those employees can also rate the training in terms of how they feel it actually was. Was it a good training? Was it a bad training? We can see here the RPS training only got 3 stars, whereas our team's voice training for our employees got 5 stars. So there's a lot of really great features that allow you to be able to kind of manage the educational opportunities that you're providing to your employees, not only for their job skill development, but also for future skill development as they continue to grow and evolve as employees in your organization. So it's a very robust system, very simple to use, much like with the LMS 365. If they wanted to take a particular course, of course, they could view this course and then they could choose to enroll this. And so here they would enroll in this course. They can see the content that's available in this course. When they enroll in this course, they'll go through and now they can see not only their progress through this course, but they can also begin to execute this course. And so when they're going through this course from an experience standpoint, the first thing we start off with is a little bit of an overview. Then we move into the learning items and we can see how many learning items we have. This, of course, includes video that we've created for this. After they've watched that video, they confirm that they've understood the presented materials as well. And then, of course, they can go through to the next part of that, which is a second video, and go through and step by step complete the training as it's been provided to them. So it's a really simple and very easy way for your employees to have access to the things that are most important to them from an LMS 365 standpoint. So there's much more that we could cover with this, but those are kind of the comparative high points about this learning management system. And of course, every employee has like their own training dashboard, so they can see trainings that they're enrolled in, ones that they've completed. They can see their certificates that they've earned from having completed certain trainings. They can get transcripts of this. We can gamify this to a bit with what's called a leaderboard, where we can see basically who's taken the most trainings or who's acquired the most certifications. And so it's a really great way to really kind of give an employee the opportunity to be all that they want to be in your organization. So that's kind of that high level overview. Of course, this does come with reporting as well. So the same reporting in terms of attendance, completion, and things of that nature. So that is the LMS 365 training platform.
Thank you very much, Monty, for walking us through that. So kind of in the time that we've got left, hopefully some of you are at least a little intrigued about what this kind of a tool could do for your business, and also maybe wondering which of the two platforms makes more sense for you. Fundamentally, at the end of the day, our goal is to help you from moving from this place of feeling overwhelmed and confused and not knowing where to go to making it simple and easy and straightforward. So that's really what we want to accomplish for you. And from that perspective, we're certainly happy to work with you on better identifying which product or service might be the right for your needs, to understand better what it is you're trying to accomplish, and then lead you into which of the two products is going to best accomplish that set of requirements. And then from there, we're happy to give you a quote so you can get a sense of what are the time commitments, the financial commitments, the subscription, like what is this going to look like, not just in terms of the immediate dollars and cents, but also how much time is it going to take internally, how much am I going to be dependent on other people, what is the total kind of impact on my business going to be, and how can I approach that? So from there, I want to stop talking and open up the floor for questions. We've got just about 15 minutes left. So feel free to unmute and talk or use the chat feature, but we'd love to hear kind of what's on your mind.
And Delcy, we currently have a bunch of platforms, different ones that we're using for our business. And I can't really tell if we can integrate them all into one, different trainings that we pay for outside of not stuff that we've developed and not stuff in 365. I just don't know if that stuff could all be integrated into one of these platforms.
Yeah, it can be probably much easier to integrate it into LMS 365. So Wayfinder is pretty limited. It's either going to be content you've created or it's going to be that Bigger Brains content you subscribe to for the most part. But if you have, like, for example, here, a lot of our vendors have their own universities. So we have a tool that we use called ConnectWise. ConnectWise has a university. We sell SonicWall firewalls. SonicWall has a university. So in a lot of cases, what we're doing is we're creating a course around getting SonicWall certified. We're then linking to that login page at SonicWall where that course is going to exist. And then when they complete that course, either automatically or manually, depending on the product, they're marking it off as complete in the LMS. So even though the training itself is going to be hosted externally from the LMS 365 platform, what it's still allowing us to do is assign those trainings, organize it, and then track who has and hasn't completed it. They can even upload their certificates. So like, for example, with SonicWall, every time you pass a course, you download a certificate. They can then turn around, upload that at LMS 365, and then we can show that they completed it because they have a copy of their certificate from SonicWall. So probably not so much with Wayfinder, but that's a great example of where LMS 365 is more robust and would be able to do things like take all your different training programs that already exist, bring them all together, organize them, and create a system to manage them.
Okay,
Somebody's messaging. Yeah, perfect. Somebody sent me a message asking if LMS 365 also has repositories like Bigger Brains. So yes, LMS 365 has, I think, 4 different content partners, and that's an evolving thing that can change. But right now they have at least 4 different providers that have different types of content, depending on what you're looking for, that you can purchase. And with those, a lot of them are not kind of like with the Wayfinder and the Bigger Brains, it's all or nothing. You either don't pay for it and you just have the 30 classes we give you for free, or you have all 180. With a lot of the ones with LMS 365, it's more curated than that. So it may say, okay, here's one of our content providers. Go to their store and either buy a package of 10 courses or pick and choose courses you want, and then hit a sync button, and it'll sync those trainings into your LMS 365 platform. So if you need a little bit more of a robust access to different paid content for professional development, LMS 365 is probably going to give you a lot more flexibility in being able to pick and choose different content and curate that. But if you are just looking for some great kind of variety of training that's already been selected, then the Wayfinder may give you what you're looking for there. And it's a great, you can compare and contrast and take a look at the different content available. We can certainly show anybody who's interested the different LMS content partners that LMS 365 has partnered with, and you can browse their course catalogs and see what kind of trainings they're making available. Somebody's asking me how much LMS 365 costs. It's kind of a complicated answer, and it's not super complicated. Fundamentally, it's a cost per user. It's an annual subscription as opposed to monthly. The difference is there are some minimums, and there are a couple of different plans. So it's going to vary based on how many learners you have in your business and exactly which features you're looking for. And then, of course, if you're adding in any premium content that you're buying from one of those LMS content providers. I would put it in the ballpark of probably $5,000 to $10,000 a year. Again, though, there's enough variables there that we'd have to really get granular. Whereas the the Wayfinder LMS Lite product, the university, is the core LMS is included in your subscription with Paragus, and then the Bigger Brains course is between $2 and $3 per user per month. Any other questions we can answer for anybody today while we've got you? Somebody's asking, is it complicated to set up the LMS 365 platform? So it really is going to depend on the level of technical sophistication within your organization. For the most part, typically, a company like Paragus is going to come in and do the initial setup. We're going to we're going to set up that initial SharePoint page and build all of the kind of back-end setup and configuration. From there, we can almost always train somebody in your organization to then be the course catalog maintainer from that point forward and build the individual courses. It's not to say that we couldn't continue to perform as deployed. We can train one of your internal resources on how to build courses and quizzes and trainings and kind of maintain it and build out the catalog. Obviously, we're always here if you have a question or a problem or an issue. And then LMS 365 also has their own support you can also reach out to. So you really can talk to either one of us for that. But it isn't likely the kind of thing they're going to have to be dependent on us beyond the initial setup and configuration. Most businesses are able to administer the initial product because it is somewhat technical in the way that it gets integrated in a 365 tenant, and there's a lot of security permissions involved. Whereas the Wayfinder, it's on today. If you're a Paragus customer and you have access to Wayfinder, if it isn't there, it's just we haven't turned it on for you. Just ask us to, and we'll turn it on. To Monty's point, we can restrict to play with that a little bit. And then if you don't see the paid courses, it just means you're not paying for them, in which case just ask your account manager to turn them on. They'll add that to your agreement, and suddenly all those 180 paid courses will show up. Any other questions? Well, before I let you all go, I just want to let you know about our next webinar on July 27th, kind of following up a little bit on the AI webinar that we did just a couple of weeks ago. We're going to be looking at the metaverse, VR, and AR. With Apple's new announcement of Apple Vision, and certainly Oculus and Meta's product has been on the market for a long time, and there's been all this talk about Zuckerberg creating the metaverse and then maybe not so much. There's a lot there to explore and understand. And so we're going to look at this from a small business perspective. What does a small business need to know about the metaverse, VR, and AR? Is this something to pay attention to? And if so, how is it going to impact your business? And where might you want to be kind of following it more closely? So that'll be coming up on July 27th. The invite for that will be coming out shortly. And we look forward to seeing you there. Otherwise, if you have any other questions about LMS or want to learn more or continue the conversation, please reach out to your account. Path makes the most sense. I want to thank you guys for tuning in today and for giving us your attention and your time. We know how valuable that is. So thank you again, and hope you have a great rest of your week.